in about now.
You got it.
Thank you, Charles.
Thanks, Pete. Okay, here we go. All right. Well, good afternoon, Santa Barbara. Welcome to another session with Career Team. I am Charles Botts. I am the Director of Training and Communications here at Career Team, and we are thrilled to be back on with you one more time for another in our series of professional development, career transition webinars. We've had a great few weeks leading up to today. We've covered a variety of topics. We looked at the online interview. We looked at networking and effective communication. We tackled a variety of other topics that all are around having success in a transition, and in particular having success executing a transition during a really challenging a really challenging period and season in our nation's history and in global history. We say it often. I don't think it loses its impact. We are in unprecedented times. We are in a season that no one living rather has experienced everything that we're experiencing seeming simultaneously. And so I think it's important to just reflect on that. We use the expression often in my home, give grace, give each other grace. I like to take it up a next level and remind, in particular, my family, give yourself grace. I remind my fellow Career Team colleagues to give yourself grace. So very important during this time, during this season, to keep that in mind, that giving yourself grace is so very important. And so with that, let's move forward with today's session, where we're going to talk about, walk you through, help you to gain some knowledge, to put you on the path to building some skills and resilience around managing change and your attitude, managing change and managing your attitude. So first, a little bit about Career Team. We do have a video embedded in here. I'm going to forego the video. I've been kind of using some discretion on that. If you're new to these sessions, if this is one of the first ones that you have attended, let me first say welcome. Again, I'm Charles. I'm the Director of Training and Communications at Career Team. Career Team is a workforce development consultant. We are a consultancy firm based out of the Northeast. We are headquartered in North Haven, Connecticut. We have been in business facilitating, managing, and executing on workforce contracts and strategy for 20 plus years. And over the course of time, we have done a variety of activities. We manage direct service contracts across the country. We have contracts in the great Pacific Northwest. Yes, we are on the West Coast in Tacoma, Washington. We have contracts in the South. We are in Kentucky and in Tennessee. We have contracts in the Southwest. We're in Texas. Texas is south. Yeah, it's not Southeast, Southwest. We're in Texas, and we're in the Mid-Atlantic. We have contracts in the great state of Delaware, and even in the nation's capital, in DC. So we have firsthand experience, firsthand knowledge in doing the work, serving individuals such as yourselves that are in the midst of implementing a career transition, individuals that are trying to move from where they are today to where they want to be tomorrow. And so we have developed a great deal of experience over the years facilitating these contracts, and through that course of time have been able to accumulate a variety of best practices that have helped us to have great success on our contracts. And what we've done in turn is develop a robust training curriculum. And we execute on that curriculum a couple different ways. One way is by doing these kinds of training venues. We'll get there. I'm excited. You could feel the passion, I think. By executing on these kinds of training opportunities, these kinds of training contracts, where we're standing up in front of a group, whether it's virtually or online, sharing some content that we've developed on a variety of subject matter. We also have a comprehensive customer relationship management and learning management software program called the Career Edge. And the Career Edge is a accumulation of our 20 plus years of knowledge assembled in an online platform that's designed to help the career providers, career services providers, whether they be a government contract, whether they be a school, whether they be a youth program, deliver on outcomes while simultaneously providing training and resources to individuals such as yourselves in an online 24/7 365 on-demand learning portal. And that's the Career Edge. And when you bring that kind of experience to the table, we have found that we are in a position to share that expertise with folks like you all that are with me today. So again, welcome. And that is a little bit about Career Team. You're not here to learn about Career Team, though, and I respect that. You're here to talk about and work through managing change and our attitude. And so where do we start? Where do we start with this idea? How do we manage change? How do we manage our attitude? What does that look like? What is that about? Well, first and foremost, and I think this is so critical, we often underestimate, underappreciate each and every one of us, our most valuable asset, and that's what's between the ears. Our mind. Our mind is our most valuable asset. A quick housekeeping item that in my eagerness to get started, I do want to take a quick second. Many times throughout the presentation, I'm going to solicit your feedback. I try to facilitate an interactive training venue, even though we're online, even though it's a webinar and we're connecting through this technology interface. You do have the ability to communicate with me. A couple different mechanisms. One, you can take yourself off mute, and you're certainly encouraged to do that. If you have a question, if you have thoughts, feedback, comments, you want to share those, you can absolutely take yourself off mute. You take your mouse, hover over the Zoom meeting controls. You'll see the microphone to the far right as you're looking, or left as you're looking at the screen. And you can click that microphone. It will take yourself on and off mute. If you are not engaging in conversation, I would ask that you do keep yourself on mute so that we avoid any incidental, accidental background noise that may disrupt the presentation. The other mechanism that you have for communication is the chat feature. And again, if you keep your mouse over the Zoom meeting controls, either you'll see a little icon, a call out icon with the word chat underneath it. You may need to go further to the Zoom menu option where there are the three dots. That's the menu that will expand, and chat is one of the options there. So we certainly recommend and say that if you do have thoughts, feedback, comments, responses, you can take yourself off mute, or you could absolutely use the chat. We keep the chat window open. So even as we're going through the presentation, if you have comments, things that you want to share, by all means, please use the chat feature. It is there and available to you. So with that being said, to pick up where we left off, we often underappreciate, undervalue our mind. And our mind, especially in a challenging time like the one that we're all living in, our mind is essential to our success. We cannot overstate how important our mind is during this process. And so where does that lead us? It leads us to this place where we identify, where we appreciate that our career identities is the mental and emotional picture we have of ourselves. This is why our mind becomes so important, because what we see, what we think of ourselves, is the reflection of our career identity. What do we mean by that? We will often self-regulate to the person or the level we're most comfortable with. If we have a career identity that leaves us in a place where we're comfortable, all I've ever been is a fill in the blank. All I've ever been is a teacher. All I've ever been is a manufacturer. All I've ever been is a manager. All I've ever been is you get the idea. And so when we see ourselves, when we put ourselves in a position where the mental projection limits where we can go, we will often identify with the places where we are most comfortable. What does that mean? That then defaults our opportunities to only that with which we are most comfortable. If we are going to find success in a transition, especially at a time where the economy is not recovering as quickly as we may like or hoped or thought it would, particularly at a time where jobs are now not bouncing back, and you know, some experts are saying some jobs have been lost forever, and other experts are saying that some jobs are coming back but not others. And as we're all trying to navigate this, the temptation is to take ourselves back a step and really just sort of identify with the place that we're most comfortable. But what I want to say to you all is that this is the time where we really need to challenge our self-image. This is the time where we need to open our minds to the possibility that we can be something other than what we have been, especially if what we've been is not readily available in our region, in our area. It is hard when we have been a teacher and there aren't a lot of teaching jobs in the area. What do we do then if in our minds that's all we've ever been, that's all we can be? We have to challenge ourselves in this time and place to see ourselves different, to be uncomfortable. So far, we're with me so far? Okay, so this is a great test. This is one of my favorite exercises. And if someone is willing to come off mute, what do you see when you look at the letters below? What words, what phrase, what jumps out at you? If someone is willing to share that with us, what do you see from the words below? And someone put it in the chat. That's fantastic. That is great, Philip. So Philip put in the chat, opportunity now here, which is excellent. Would anyone be willing to share, admit, if this is the case, and it may not be, but did anyone see opportunity nowhere first? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your transparency. I appreciate that. And the truth of the matter is, many individuals see opportunity nowhere first. Now, for those of you, and I'm raising my hand because when I first started this exercise, I actually was a participant, and opportunity nowhere was the first thing that I picked up on as well. However, how many folks, for those of you that saw nowhere initially, how many took a second look and saw now here, almost simultaneously or immediately after nowhere? Did anyone see opportunity now here immediately following? And we got some folks saying yes. Yeah, yeah. So what does that tell us? What does that tell us, team? What it means is that our initial perception is not the only truth. Now, do the words on the screen form opportunity nowhere? Yes, yes, they do. That's not made up. That's not false. Okay, so one of the things that I'm always careful of when I am challenging my partners, when I'm challenging my friends to expand their mental picture, one of the pushbacks is, well, Charles, I can't deny reality, right? If I've been a teacher my entire career, I just can't wake up and be something else the next day. And that's fair. I can't make it not say opportunity nowhere. The letters on the screen form the words opportunity nowhere. And that's exactly correct. This is where the difference is. You can see opportunity nowhere. Do you have the ability to also look again? And some folks are saying yes, look again and see opportunity now here. And that's where the power of our minds comes in. When I go to bed as a teacher, when I wake up, I'm a teacher. Okay. When I went to bed, I was a teacher for, hypothetically, I'm using that because it's actually, my mother is a teacher, 30 years retired, Boston public school system. God love her. I have a soft spot for teachers, especially in COVID, where we got hybrid and online and homeschool, just education is upside down and inside out. So I have a real passion and soft spot for teaching, but it applies for any occupation. The bottom line is I've been doing something for a while. I go to bed, I'm that thing. I wake up, I'm that thing. Can you take a second look? Does there exist the capacity, the opportunity for you to see yourself as something different, because the opportunity for different is now here? So we can absolutely say the opportunity for teaching is nowhere. The schools have become very restrictive. We're not seeing as many students in person. We've lost a lot of teaching jobs. Don't know when those jobs are coming back. Charles, I can't do anything about the fact that the opportunity for teaching is nowhere. That's fair. But what you can do is take a second look and see the opportunity for other circumstances, the opportunity for other careers, the opportunity for other options is now here. Do you believe you see what you see? Initially, I saw opportunity nowhere. I took a second look. I see opportunity now here. Can we take a second look? That's one of the takeaways today. That's one of the big takeaways today, team, is can you take a second look? All right, questions. So far, so good? Excellent. So career thermostat, what temperature is your career thermostat set at? I know my Californians, I know y'all have trouble identifying with this metaphor. In New England, the thermostat is huge. Okay, the thermostat is an essential part of life because we deal with such variation. I know it gets cold. I know, but listen, you also can concede that it may get chilly in California, but it don't get New England winter cold, right? Okay, so we we need our thermostat, and especially this time of year, we're starting to pay a little bit closer attention to that thermostat. We're starting to check that in the mornings. It's like, ooh, it's a little brisk. Do I want to adjust the thermostat? And we got the programmable ones, right? So I'm going to program my thermostat before I go to bed, so when I wake up, I can wake up, it's a little bit warm, take a little bit of the chill out of the air. And so, where is your career thermostat set? Where's your career thermostat set? What we mean by that is your thermostat is the measurement. It tells us the temperature, yeah? So does your thermostat give us an indication as to what's happening in our subconscious? Are we set? Are we programming our subconscious to anticipate success? Are we programming our subconscious to anticipate success? What does that look like? Well, you can see there, and I if you've been on in some sessions with me, I tend not to read the slides. I trust that everyone in the session is able to do that. I think you get on presentations like this so you can benefit from the presenter's experience and nuance and perspective. If you just wanted me to read the slides, I could send the slides ahead of time. So I'm offering some context. So I tend not to read the slides, but you can see that there's not a technique or strategy that can make a difference if our subconscious is set to anticipate, almost expect failure. So how do we retrain our thermostat? So this is where you can gain an appreciation for your subconscious. How do you see yourself? Who are you? How do you answer that question? Who are you? Do you define yourself? And this is more rhetorical, but I think it's important to reflect on. Do you define yourself based on your occupation, your career? Many of us do. Are you more than your career? Can you be open to the idea that you are more than your career? Can you be open? Now watch this. Watch this. Can you be open to the idea that you can be a manufacturer without having to be in that particular field at the moment? Can you be a teacher that is functioning in customer service for the time being? Can you be a manufacturer? Can you be an engineer that's functioning in operations for the time being? Who are you? You're more than your job title. Okay, that's the hint. You're more than your job title. What are your habits? What are you doing every day? You may have heard me mention this in some of our earlier sessions, that a career transition, guys, a job search, let's call it what it is. We're looking for a career. We're seeking for a career. That process is in and of itself a full-time job. Are you waking up? Are you getting ready, getting yourself clean, brushing your teeth, showering, getting dressed to go sit at the computer, to pick up the phone, to make some calls, to make some connections? Are you treating it like your career? Because your success is going to be found in those habits. So are we doing that? What do you believe in? Do you believe that you're going to be successful? Are you managing your fear? Do you guys remember what we said about fear? For those of you that have been on with me before, we broke down fear into an acronym. Do you guys remember that? Anyone? Put it in the chat if you remember what the acronym FEAR stands for. FEAR. Put it in the chat for me, or take a guess if you're not sure. Maybe you haven't been with me before. The word fear we break down to an acronym. Excellent. Excellent. Janie, you get the high score for the day. Absolutely. Fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. Now you may have known that on your own. You may not have got that from our sessions, but that's awesome. That's what it is. False evidence appearing real. It really is the part of your mind that wants to be comfortable. That's why we have to take control. Because if we let our mind, if we let our subconscious, that's what this session is all about. If we let our subconscious run the show, it will convince us of this false evidence that the only thing you can do is what you've done. That's false. So how are we managing that false evidence that appears real but is not real? Do you believe? Get this, guys. Get this, please. Do you believe you are deserving of a great career? Charles, I have limited education. I don't know that I deserve a great career. Charles, I didn't have a lot of success in my previous opportunities. I don't know that I deserve. You deserve great. Janie also said fear is forget everything and run. That's a good one. I actually have seen that. I have heard that one before. Yeah, forget everything and run. That's fun. It same thing, right? Same concept. But you deserve a great career. You do. Everyone on this call deserves a great career. We deserve to earn a living in dignity, whatever it is. And I'm so grateful because I know that I'm on with folks that appreciate dignity can come in a variety of capacities. There is great dignity in building maintenance. There's great dignity in human service. There's great dignity in education. There's great dignity in the trades. There's certainly great dignity in financial services. There's great dignity in IT. There's great dignity in working across the U.S. economy. There is great dignity to be found, and everyone is entitled to that. Everyone is entitled to that. Entitled. Yes, I absolutely believe. I absolutely believe that it is a human right to work in dignity, to earn a living in dignity. Now, that doesn't mean that because it's a right, because we're entitled to it, it's just given out and we don't have to do anything to work for it. We absolutely do. We absolutely do. I am by no means out here saying that we just give out good jobs for anyone and everyone if we're not putting in some effort. And that's why I say, do you believe? Because if you believe, then you're going to do the work. You're going to put in the time. You're going to put in the effort. And you're going to acknowledge and recognize and appreciate that earning a living, that working hard, that contributing is dignity in and of itself. And that's special. Does that make sense? I hope I'm not losing anyone. I hope I'm not losing anyone. I hope everyone is with me and tracking and we're getting this, that managing change, managing our attitude, that's the success, that's the key to managing change. Managing our attitude is really in our belief. And so part of that has to do with risk taking. It's a risk. It's a risk to pursue an opportunity outside of where we're comfortable. It's absolutely a risk. But when we challenge ourselves, when we see ourselves something other than what we've been, we're able to do that. And ultimately, I've said it a couple different ways, but are we programming ourselves? Are we programming our mind for career success? And that has everything to do with challenging ourselves. So some things to think about. What's the why behind our want? What's the why behind our want? What is it that we want, and why do we want that thing? What is it that we want, and why do we want it? Where are we today? Where do we want to be tomorrow? Where are we today? Where do we want to be tomorrow? What's your why? Where are you? Where are you going? What's your why? Where are you? Where are you going? So how do we get there? We got to modify behaviors. That's what change is. It's modifying behaviors to go in a different direction, to take on some different responsibilities. That's all change is. It's modification, guys. Is it easy? No. Let me be the first one to say, let me be the first one to own it and admit it. It is not easy. So you know what? Let me pause because that may be a misconception. That may be a blind spot on my part. Is change difficult? Put it in the chat for me. Let me know. Are you someone, or take yourself off mute if you wish to do that. But let me know. Is change difficult for you? Is change difficult for you? Okay, got some activity happening. Someone is saying yes, very. Someone is saying mildly, and not. So that's awesome. We kind of got the spectrum. Okay, any others? So someone is saying yes. Someone is saying Someone is saying no, not really. That's excellent. I think that's actually really cool. I don't know. I don't think it was planned. Depends on what it is. Yep, that's fair. That's fair. That's accurate. Depends on what it is. I think that's probably true for many of us. I think that's probably true for many of us. Is that depending on the change we have to make? Although some folks, just kind of personalities, how we're wired. For some folks, any deviation, any variation from the routine is asking a lot. Is asking a lot, and that's not a flaw. Okay, so let me say that up front, so that we're not, we're not negatively self-reflecting. Having difficulty with change doesn't make us weak. It doesn't make us obstinate. It doesn't make us stubborn. It doesn't make us closed-minded. It means that changes in behavior are difficult, and that's okay. I think it's important to recognize that, to know that. It means we have to work a little bit harder than maybe some others. Some others are more open to it, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. It's good to know that. And at the same time, I think it's important to recognize that someone that's open to change doesn't mean that they can't function and survive and thrive in an environment that maybe doesn't have a lot of change, an environment that maybe is very consistent and very steady and very regular day in and day out. So I think it's important to acknowledge those things. Ultimately, it can be uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable. So there's a couple types of changes you can see up on the screen. You've got cyclical, you've got structural. And we are in the middle of both right now. We are in the middle of both. Feels like daily. We are absolutely in the middle of both, where we've got these cyclical changes where we go through seasonal changes. Talked about what life is like here in New England. We've got seasonal changes, variations in the weather, variations in the climate, those sorts of things. And we've got structural changes, things that are happening in our civilization. COVID, huge structural change that nobody anticipated. Crystal ball, Nostradamus, prophets, all that. Nobody anticipated the depth and breadth and variety of structural changes that were going to be implemented as a result of COVID-19. But here we are working through that. And so I think it's important to acknowledge and recognize that some change is, ironically enough, some change is regular. Cyclical change happens. There's a certain amount of that you can count on. There's a certain amount of the seasons are, even in a world where the climate is rapidly changing, it's still cyclical in the changing. There's variations. Some winters are colder than others, some summers are hotter than others. Was speaking with Peter earlier at the start of the session regarding, and we continue to think about and pray for our friends on the West Coast, and in particular in parts of California that are trying to survive the wildfires. So we absolutely recognize and appreciate that even in the cyclical changes, there's variation. Hurricanes are getting stronger and that sort of thing. And so we recognize that and appreciate that. Some change we can anticipate, some change we don't see coming. When we are flexible, when we have a mind that is open, a mind that embraces change, embraces opportunity that can be found, opportunity now here, right? Every time there's a change, it's a new opportunity. There's opportunity now here. Every time there's a change, when we have a mind that is open and embraces that, then we can find some success. So let's acknowledge what are some factors that can lead to a resistance in change. What are some influences that can lead to a resistance in change? I put some examples up. Put it in the chat, guys. Let me know if there are other factors that you think about that can add to a resistance to change. Absolutely, our family structure can be a contributing factor to our resistance to change, depending on how my family is organized. Yeah, great. Philip says comfort or familiarity. Familiarity is a big one. Absolutely. This is my commute, right? This is the path that I like to travel, that I'm comfortable traveling. And if I can't find an opportunity, as a part of this travel path, I don't know that I'm going to be open to going elsewhere. So yeah, the familiar, the comfortable, our habits. We talked about that earlier in the session. What are our habits? What are we doing on a daily basis? That can absolutely result in some resistance to change. Now this is an interesting one. There's often some kind of controversy, maybe too strong a word, but there's often some pushback when we talk about media being a resistance to change. Not only kind of media that we consume in terms of news and information, but kind of technology. Unbelief, another good one, another really good one. Phil, thank you. Unbelief, it can be a resistance to change. Yeah. If we talked with subconscious, right? That those fears. If I don't see myself, if I don't believe that I can be something other than a teacher, if I don't believe that I can be something other than fear of failure. Great, Janie. Yeah. Yep. Fear of failure. Just not willing to put myself out there because there's just there's too much at stake. What if it doesn't work out? What if I get fired? What if I don't have success? I may be better off just waiting for something else to come along. Yeah, great feedback, guys. Any others? So media. I actually want to get your thoughts on this. Can the media, can the content, the information that we consume, can the media be a source that results in a resistance to change? What do you guys think about that? Is that, yeah, Philip is like, absolutely. The information that we get, we consume can contribute to our resistance to change. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. You know, I try to um, see myself as someone that is not easily influenced, but ultimately, you know, especially, and again, being transparent in an environment where we are inundated, where there is a constant. I mean, guys, if you have a smartphone, if you have a computer, if you have cable TV, I mean, it's just a flood. You almost, to get away from it, you almost have to be completely off the grid, right? I mean, you almost have to have nothing, because there's just this flood, and it is hard. It is hard to tune it out. It's hard to filter it. It's hard to decipher. And so, yeah, I think media can be a huge contributing factor to our resistance to change, depending on the kind of information that we're consuming. I think that that's absolutely the case. Any others? Any others before we? So let's look at so these are some influences that can lead to our resistance. Now here are some barriers, and we put these up here, and you'll start to see kind of some overlap, but we put these up here in particular to help us name some things so we can start to address them. So one of the primary barriers to change is just laziness. I mean, there's just no other way. You know, we're not gonna couch it. We're not gonna call it something else. Just I don't want to. Just don't feel like it. This is you know what I've done. It's what I want to do, and if I can't do it, then whatever. Just not gonna do anything. Just lazy. There's no now we recognize, which is why the anxiety piece is up there. Sometimes, particularly if there's a diagnosis, I'm not a counselor. I don't play one on TV. I do not have that training, that expertise. But I've worked in workforce development. I've worked with mental health professionals, and so I do recognize and I'll acknowledge and appreciate that depression and anxiety can present in a couple different ways. And so it can present as apathy, which can appear as laziness, where you're just sort of indifferent and just kind of, oh, I don't know, whatever you want to do, whatever. That can come across as lazy. And so sometimes there's a diagnosis, and sometimes it's just the individual is lazy. And we will call a spade a spade. Sometimes it's just laziness. There's no diagnosis. There's no underlying factor. It's I would just rather not, and that is a barrier to change. We got to know that. We got to know that, acknowledge it, call it for what it is. Sometimes ignorance is involved, where I don't feel like I have enough information. I don't feel informed. And so, because I don't know enough, because I don't have enough information, because I'm not clear, I don't want to. I don't want to take that step. I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to put myself out there because I don't have enough information. So ignorance is a piece, and so we mentioned kind of anxiety, depression is, it just there is a real kind of component. Philip wrote in the chat, anxiety from a false responsibility of loyalty to friends to prevent hearing, you've changed, you're not the same. That's really interesting. That's really, really interesting. I like that. I like that a lot. That this notion that there is this sense of loyalty, and so we're unable to hear that we've changed or that we're not the same because there's this commitment to friends or family. And so we can't receive that feedback. That's really, thank you for that contribution. That is not an angle that I had considered before. But I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that contribution, and I think something I want to consider and unpack, and I think something important for us all to think about, those family ties, those familial ties, and does that now we talked about family and friends on the previous slide here. We talked about family and friends as a contributing factor to resisting change. I had not considered, I think that's an interesting angle that you bring, Philip, that family and friends can be a barrier to change. So we may hesitate to change because of our family and friends, because of obligation, because of commitment, because the bosses are teachers, and dad was a teacher, and grandma was a teacher, and auntie's a teacher, and the bosses are teachers, and so I'm a bots, that's what I'm gonna be. But I had not really thought about deeply the angle of family or friends being a barrier to change because of that commitment. The bosses are teachers, I got to teach, even if maybe I'm open to something else, even if maybe I may have some skills that are more inclined to something else. That loyalty, that sense of obligation to families or friends either keeps me from changing or keeps me from seeing, from acknowledging, from appreciating the ways that I have changed, the ways that I'm not the same. Thank you. Great contribution. And then confusion is a little different than ignorance. So ignorance is not knowing, confusion is not understanding, right? So we may be unable to change because we just don't have enough information. We may be unable to change because we don't understand the information that we've been presented with. It's just not clear. We don't understand. We don't understand that the teaching jobs are not coming back. We can't comprehend that. The school is still there. The school is there. There are children in our community that need to be educated. What do you mean the teaching jobs are not coming back? Well, the teaching jobs are not coming back because the district has gone to this kind of model, and this model is going to be put in place indefinitely, and we're just not certain when things will be sufficiently managed and maintained where we can go back to a place where we can increase staffing levels, and even if we do go back to that place, the teacher is going to be required to do X, Y, and Z, and so one of the barriers can be just, I don't understand the information that I'm being presented with. I'm confused. Other thoughts, questions, comments before we wrap up, coming close to the end of our time for this week. Okay. And then as we wrap up, so I mentioned this a little bit at the beginning for folks that might have been on just before we sort of officially kind of kick things off. Again, Peter and I were sharing, Peter there from the board in Santa Barbara. And one of the things that we're reflecting on is the need for a positive attitude, particularly during this phase. Something that I think folks may not be aware of is that it takes as much energy to be positive as it does to be negative. It takes no more energy to be positive. It takes no less energy to be negative. It takes the same amount of energy. And so if that's the case, and it is, we're given apples to apples, why not choose to be positive? Janie, I appreciate your transparency. It's a challenge for a lot of folks. It's a challenge for a lot of folks because I think we talked about confusion a little while ago, right? I think or ignorance in this situation, I think we maybe have been convinced that being positive is harder. And so we kind of default to negative. That's why for many of us, so if I go back, I'm going to go back a couple of slides, hang in there with me. I don't want anyone to get sick for the rapid transition of the slide change. That's why many of us, when we first look at these letters, we see opportunity nowhere, not because we're negative. I don't think that we see opportunity nowhere. Many of us, not everyone, I think many of us see opportunity nowhere first, not because we're negative, but because it's easier for our brains to find two words than it is to find three. And so we just sort of default to, oh, it's opportunity nowhere. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I see. It's now here. And so I think there is this conception that it's just easier to be negative because being positive takes so much effort. And the reality is it really doesn't. It takes as much effort to see the glass half empty as it does to see the glass half full. And so with that in mind, perception, you guys have heard this expression before, I'm sure, is reality. Our perception, our belief becomes our reality. So if we take the path of being negative, there's not another word. If we take the path of being negative, that is going to be our experience. That's going to inform our reality. So why not choose to be positive? Why not choose? Being positive doesn't mean you're not realistic. And I mean, this is, you want to talk about, if I had a soapbox, I'd step up on my soapbox. You want to talk about, soapbox. This is one of the hills that I plant my flag in, is that being positive does not mean you're out of touch. I think oftentimes individuals, optimists, are often accused with being unrealistic. That idealism has developed kind of a negative connotation, that idealists are out of touch, they're unrealistic, they don't live in the real world. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. And this is really important, because this is how we're going to manage our attitudes in order to embrace change, in order to be open to change, in order to see the opportunity now here. We're going to see the opportunity now here because our reality is going to be informed by our choice to focus and see and experience positivity. Because there is positivity even in the midst of a global pandemic, even in the midst of a racial pandemic, even in the midst of a combative election cycle, even in the midst of rapid cultural change, even during the midst of crazy weather and rapid climate change and severe hurricanes and severe wildfires and seasonal change. Even in the midst of all of this, there's still positive opportunity. There's still these glimmers, these threads. We still are here. We're still progressing. We're still moving. Jobs may not have been created as fast or to the level that we've hoped, but jobs are being created. We may be starting to get on our family's nerves because we're spending so much time at home and so much time together, but we get to be with our families. If that's the case, and if that's not the case, if that's not your reality, there are other positive items that we can look at, we can observe, we can identify that things haven't fallen all the way apart. That in the midst of a global pandemic, we're still finding our way through. We're still finding opportunity to grow and to succeed and to move forward. Janie said, always something to be grateful for. And Karen chimed in, yes, there is. Amen. absolutely, guys. Yes, there is always something to be grateful for. Every day above ground. That's what Grandpa says. Every day above ground. Good day. And you know, even if you are, uh, I'll be careful. I'll be careful, kind of depending on your worldview, depending on your faith practice, and you know, even if you end up below the ground, so to speak, and you look forward to whatever is next, for those times where we are not there for this side of eternity, if you will. There's opportunity to express and practice gratitude. There's opportunity to express and practice gratitude. So how do we do that? How do we do that? One is positive self-talk. And it's not easy. That's one of those things that's kind of easier said than done, is this idea of positive self-talk. It's that is I think often a concept that's very easy to say. It can be very uncomfortable to do, to look in a mirror and say you have value, that your life has meaning, that you're a positive contributor, that your community needs you, that your family, your friends need you. But this is something that we can practice. And so that's what I want us to do. That's your homework. Santa Barbara, that's your homework. For a week. No, for 2 weeks. I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it for 2 weeks because we're back in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to push you. Over the next 2 weeks, I want you to take a couple of seconds every morning. And if you can't start by looking yourself in the mirror, if that is a little uncomfortable initially, I want you to work yourself up to being able to look yourself in the mirror. But over the next 2 weeks, I want everyone to commit to looking in the mirror and starting each day with this expression: I have value, my family needs me, my community needs me, I am a positive contributor. Those 4 statements. We're going to wake up every morning. We're going to be grateful for each new morning. We're going to wake up and we're going to say out loud, I have value, my family or friends need me, my community needs me, I am a positive contributor. Can we do that? Can we commit to that, Santa Barbara? I hope so. Any questions, comments, thoughts as we wrap up? Thank you. I'm seeing the commitment come in through the chat. That's awesome, guys. Thank you. Any other thoughts, questions, comments before we wrap up today? I want to be respectful of your time as we come to the end of the hour. Well, thank you. You know, some folks are expressing gratitude in the chat. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with me. I'm very grateful to you, and hopefully this has been another informative session. It's been another positive session, and we have some resources to take us forward as we manage change in our attitude. Thanks, everyone. There's a reminder in the chat from the board in Santa Barbara. Don't forget, you can find the recorded webinars on the YouTube channel under Santa Barbara County America Job Centers of California. So look for that on YouTube and you'll get the recordings of all of the sessions. Great. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Be safe. Stay healthy. Stay in the fight. Bye-bye.